Hello everyone, Joey Knight Jr. here, back with another comic book review. And today we have the Horseman issue number 2. And this issue, it answered a lot of questions for me that I had. It disproven a couple of theories I had from the previous comic. And then it laid foundations for more questions and more intrigue going forward. Let's get down to business, if you will, as the great Eric July says. Let's get down to business and review the Horseman number 2. Now, you see I have cover D right here. We got our boy Cal Buckley on the cover for cover D. That is the mass print copy. And then, as always, I got right here my cover A copy, my sealed copy, the copy that one day, if I do get to meet the great Chuck Dixon, will be signed. That's what I do with my cover A's. I keep them sealed until I meet the writers and I get them signed. But let's get down to the Horseman issue number 2. So the story starts, and just right out the gate, he's going through and he blows up a fentanyl distribution center as part of his arrangement with Cal Buckley. You know, he's going to do these jobs for Cal Buckley because, after all, he is doing this, as we get a reminder on the first little page, that he's doing this for a girl by the name of Keely Rose. Keely was a girl in his neighborhood, and she unfortunately overdosed. Which, a theory I had about that gets disproven later on in the comic, which we'll get into. And by the way, I don't know if I said at the beginning, but spoilers. So, sorry for ruining that first part right there. But, thankfully, it was something that you would have expected to happen in this comic. A drug facility blowing up. So, here's your official warning if I didn't give one earlier. Spoilers. I do spoiler reviews. So this right here is getting spoiled. All right, continuing. Then we go and we head to a prison facility. And our good old buddy, Bucky Calhoun, he has a visitor. And he goes to the window, he sees his visitor, and it's this woman. And this woman lets him know, hey, by the way, I'm here to take over your empire. I'm here to take over your operation. He kind of laughs it off like, oh, okay, all right, that's cute. Then all of a sudden he starts clutching his chest. Starts clutching at it. Brother feels like he's having a heart attack. Then all of a sudden he just starts grabbing at his head, screaming like a drill is going through it. Well, this woman's an accept. And I don't know if it's just strictly nerves or if she could control all other parts of the body, but she's making this man feel pain. So after feeling enough pain, he's like, all right, you got my operation, it's yours, just please leave me alone. And we get a name for this woman. Her name is, I believe the pronunciation is Duele. I believe that's how you pronounce it. It's spelled D-U-E-L-E. And apparently it means pain. So, yeah, quite the appropriate name for this woman after what we saw. And then, over the next course of a couple pages, we see how all these operations, especially with them having at the dead of night, how they're affecting Hector into his real life, the double life he's trying to live. You know, whether it's him being excessively tired at work, at his job at Unipacket. That's what the place was called. Basically, Flores' Park versions of Amazon is what I like to look at it as. And whether it's him constantly being tired, constantly taking phone calls, and we see through these constant phone calls, whether they're at work or with his family, Cal is trying to figure out who Horseman is, which disproves a theory I had in the first comic. You see, I thought with the Keely Rose situation, I thought Cal may have been behind that. He may have, bought the drugs and provided them or been behind it somehow to affect someone in Horseman's neighborhood, so that way Horseman would agree to do these jobs for him. I thought that's where that was going. I was disproven wrong, because apparently throughout all these phone calls, Cal is trying to figure out who Horseman is, what his name is, where he lives, does he have any close familial ties or friendship ties to kind of keep him a hold in his grasp. And so yeah, turns out I was wrong on that. Turns out Cal has no idea who the Horseman is, but he's trying to figure it out. He doesn't know who the Horseman is yet, but he's trying to figure it out. He's got his crew working on these phone calls to figure that out. And then, as we go along into the story, after we get, those pages with the phone calls and all that, Horseman, he's going back to messing things up. First, he goes to a counterfeiting plant, counterfeited money, and boom, blows that up. That goes up in smoke. And then, speaking of going up in smoke, the next one he targets is he does scouting report and eventual termination of a weed facility. Devil's lettuce. You dig? Anyway, moving forward. But before he gets to handling with the weed facility, he takes care through all the normal mercs and everything, the normal low-level criminals and all that. And then he meets an except. And he's a durable except. He's a powerful except. And Horseman tries everything. He tries fist fighting. He tries using his melee weapons. He tries using his guns. And nothing is working on this man. Until eventually Horseman, he goes to Plan C. And what is Plan C, you may ask? Runs through the window, tosses his bag in the building, bag's filled with explosives, kaboom, takes out the weed facility. And he hopes takes out the except. We don't get an answer to that on if it actually took him out or not. So maybe something that comes back later on in one of the next issues. And I did appreciate a line in here when he's coming out of the building. The explosion behind him and everything. This line right here, I'm going to read it to you. The whole neighborhood will smell like a Norfolk concert for weeks. Which, appropriately enough, as I'm recording, before I started recording this comic review, I got my Norfolkas in my glorious death, Norfolka. And I will be reading those, and hopefully sometime a few days after this one gets uploaded, there'll be a Norfolka issue 1 review coming to the channel. And I promise I will eventually get to Zaylin. I know that's the one. I'm way behind on getting y'all a Zaylin review. I'll eventually get to that after I get through this and then through Norfolka. But anyway, back to the Horseman. So he blows up the weed facility, but like I said, he took a beating. He took a beating from that except. He's trying to bandage himself up. He's trying to, get past it, but he just can't. He knows, all right, I'm going to end up in the hospital. But to keep his double life, to make sure that, his sister doesn't find out he's playing Horseman still, he runs the car off a cliff, jumps out before the car goes off the edge, and, tries to play it off like he was in a car wreck. As he's dialing 911, he passes out. He wakes up in the hospital. I believe it's a couple days later. Yeah, it's like a day or a couple days later after the fact. Let's see. See if I can get since the night before last. So a couple days. He's been in the hospital. When he wakes up, he sees his sister's boyfriend, I guess you can call him. Someone that she's been out on a couple dates with. After all, that was one of the phone calls where Cal, he was using those phone calls for information. Both to figure out his family situation and when he was on the phone babysitting his nephew. Which, to go back a little bit, I thought that phone call was maybe actually going to help out Horseman instead of hurt him as far as figuring out his identity. Because the nephew, Danny, he yelled out, "Yay, goats." So I'm thinking, okay, he's going to look up for a guy with Hector's last name because all he knew was the last name. And he heard goats. So he's going to try to look for a farmer, which Hector obviously is not. And I thought that was hopefully going to help Hector, but it did not. As we will soon learn. Because after he gets done talking with the boyfriend for a little bit, they get to know each other a little bit. His sister Patty comes in, and she is upset. She sees right through it. She knows Hector too well. And she lets Hector know, if you want to keep living this double life, then you're out. Your things will be ready for you to grab and leave when you get released. They leave, and all of a sudden the nurse, she comes in and she brings a package for Hector. It's some flowers and a card, and she lets him know, hey, you have a call. And this card reads, hope you have a speedy recovery, cowboy, CB, which is what Cal Buckley has been calling Horseman, been calling him Cowboy. So yeah, the jig is up on multiple ends for Horseman. The jig is up for his sister. His sister knows now he's still playing Horseman. And the jig is up on his secret identity as far as the case of Cal Buckley goes. So Cal, he starts letting him know, like, hey, you know, I know you've been out of it for a little bit, so I'm going to, you know, catch you up on everything. The jobs you've been doing for me, yeah, it's been causing chaos in the best possible way. All the gangs, they're turning against each other. They're blaming each other for all this stuff that's going on. And they've been taking each other out. And I don't have to lift a finger. They're just taking themselves out. And then he lets Horseman know, like, as far as like our arrangement goes, you know, I no longer have a use for you because now there's a void in all this criminal activity that I can now insert myself in and take over. And, you know, since you did this job for me, there's no way you're going to rat me out, because then you'd be ratting yourself out to all of these felonies. You know, all the lives you've taken, all the buildings you've blown up, all the property you've destroyed. You'd be admitting to that if you know, point the finger at me. Because, you know, one does not exist without the other, which, you know, that's a tricky situation for Horseman to be in. And in a situation I am excited to see how he tries to get out of that. But yeah, that's how the story ends. Pretty much is Cal lets him know, like, hey, I'll no longer be calling you. I'll no longer need your services. Keep the toys. And yeah, I have dirt on you. You have dirt on me. And I know you're not going to turn me in. So as long as I know you're not going to turn me in, I won't hurt you or your family. And we all see, to be continued in The Horseman #3. Chuck Dixon absolutely cooked with this one. Horseman, along with Yaira and Bloodroof, like top 3 characters right there. And this book right here solidifies that for me. That Horseman, he is top 3 character in the Rippaverse right now for me. And I just don't know. I don't know where this goes. Because, and then something I forgot to point out, you know, when Cal mentioned the fact that, oh, you know, the void's empty now. Well, what about this empire that got taken over from our buddy Bucky Calhoun and this woman who is clearly an accept? Well, where's she fit into this empty void? How's she gonna get involved? Are her and Horseman gonna have a loose alliance in the future to take out Cal, and then they butt heads after they take out Cal? Are Cal and Horseman gonna have to team up again to get rid of this woman? If they even can. Is Horseman's relationship with Patty gonna be reconciled? And where's the Horseman go from here? He no longer has his family, and he now has to figure out his purpose again, because these jobs, they're not coming anymore because he's served his purpose. Just all of these interesting plot lines, all these little under, you know, just these little sprinkles of stories that are, you know, you get some of your answers here, you'll get some of your answers later. Because I mean, like I said earlier, I got disproven on a couple of theories that I either had in the first book or theories I came up with in the second book, and they got disproven in this book. But then, like I said, I still have plenty of questions going forward about the Horseman later on down the line with these characters we got introduced to, and the characters we already know in the book. And then, you know, we had a mention of Alpha Cord in the comic, and Horseman was able to avoid them this time. But is he going to be able to avoid them in the next issue? When he has to deal with Cal, is he going to come clean? Is he going to try to, you know, make some type of deal with the Alpha Core? You know, with everything he's done? I don't know. But he might have to. And that's the exciting part. That's the part I am looking forward to going down the line with this series. What is the Horseman going to have to do? What compromises is he going to have to make to get out of this situation that he has put himself in? And just fantastic work, Mr. Dixon. Just, I'm so excited for Horseman issue number 3. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you've already read Horseman issue number 2, let me know what you thought about it in the comments section below. Please remember to leave a like, share the video, but most importantly of all, subscribe to Joey Knight Jr., and I will see y'all in the next one. Peace.